I had this really strange moment the other day. I was rereading something that I'd written with the help of an AI, and I just had to stop. The room was quiet, and I just felt this profound disconnect. And that was it. That was the feeling. The words on the screen were just perfect, so eloquent, so structured, so persuasive. They sounded exactly like the smartest version of myself. But looking at them, I had this really hollow realization. The person who wrote that, well, that isn't the person reading it. The deep understanding just wasn't there. It felt completely unearned. Okay, so let's really dive into this, because I have a feeling I'm not the only one who's experienced this. I started calling it the fluency fallacy. It's this tricky little trap we fall into where we mistake the polished, fluent output from a machine for our own genuine comprehension. This loop right here, it just visualizes it perfectly. And what's so seductive about it is how easy it is, right? It all starts with just a flicker of an idea, something messy and incomplete. But instead of wrestling with it, we just hand it off. The AI gives back something clean, articulate. And in that exact moment, our brain takes a shortcut. We see the polished language and we just assume the thinking behind it is just as solid. We've effectively outsourced the hard part, the thinking itself. And this gets to the very core of that hollow feeling. It creates this really unsettling gap between what we're projecting to the world, this articulate, competent self, and what we know deep down, internally, which is this void, this lack of real ownership over the idea. And that gap, that's where the danger is. So this whole feeling sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole. I wasn't really looking for answers like an expert, but more like an observer of my own behavior. I just wanted to see if there were names for these ghosts, these cognitive patterns that AI seems to be making so much louder inside of us. And the first thing I found was this, the fluency heuristic. Turns out it's one of our brain's default settings. When information is really easy to process, when it's smooth, coherent, and just well-structured, exactly like AI-generated text, we have this instinct to feel that it's more true, that it's higher quality. We don't even stop to question the substance because the style is just that convincing. Man, Daniel Kahneman just hits the nail on the head here. AI is an absolute master of familiarity. It draws on these massive patterns of human language, so its output feels correct, it feels familiar, even if the actual concept is brand new to us. And that powerful sense of familiarity can just bypass our critical thinking altogether. We accept it. And then there's this layer. We all suffer from this thing called the illusion of explanatory depth. Think about a zipper. You know how a zipper works, right? Of course you do. But could you explain the precise mechanics of it? Probably not in much detail. Well, AI exploits this cognitive blind spot perfectly. It gives us the full, detailed explanation, and we just kind of adopt it as our own, without ever really testing the true depth of our own knowledge. And all of this leads to something even bigger. We start to offload the very act of knowing itself. This is where our own, fragmented thoughts start to merge with the machine's perfectly formed sentences. We begin to trust the AI's perfect phrasing as if it were our own comprehension. And that line between its output and our own mind just gets blurrier and blurrier. So you can see how these three biases create this kind of perfect storm, right? The AI's output feels true. We trick ourselves into thinking we understand it, and then we let the machine outsource the actual knowing. It is the perfect recipe for getting stuck in this articulation trap. This whole realization really forced me to turn the lens inward. The problem wasn't the tool. It's never just the tool. The AI is just a mirror, and when I started looking at my own prompts, I had to confront what they were reflecting back about my own intentions. This became the absolute central question for me. Was my goal genuine inquiry? Was it a real desire to deepen my understanding? Or was it all just performance? A desire for a shortcut to sounding smart, to win the argument, maybe, at the expense of actually learning anything? And the answer, well, it was right there in my prompt history. Just look at the difference here. The first prompt, it's asking for an end to the thinking process. It wants a deliverable, a finished product. The second one, though, it's asking for a beginning. It's using the AI not for articulation, but for provocation, to spark curiosity, not to replace it. So, you see, the AI isn't the trap. It's the mirror. It's this incredible tool that just exposes our own cognitive defaults, our tendency to seek comfort and avoid the difficult, messy, but necessary work of actual thinking. What we ask of it, that says everything about what we truly value. All of this brings us to a really fundamental choice. This isn't about finding some simple solution to using AI. It's about recognizing the new dilemma it presents to us every single day. And I've started calling it the articulator's dilemma. And really, these are the two paths. We can use these incredible tools as a partner, like a sparring partner, to help us wrestle with complexity and clarify our own thoughts until we can finally articulate them ourselves, or we can use them as a mask, a way to conceal our own confusion behind a flawless machine-generated facade of eloquence. You know, when I read this line from David Graeber, it hit me so hard, because that's what choosing that second path can feel like, constantly hiding our confusion, pretending to know, outsourcing our own thinking. It starts to feel like a small betrayal of ourselves, like a kind of violence against the very essence of what it means to learn and to grow as a person. And look, I don't have some neat resolution for all of this. The purpose of this explainer isn't to give you 5 easy steps to avoid the trap. It's really just to name it, to see it clearly. Because simply recognizing that this pattern exists is the absolutely crucial first step. We have to be willing to just sit with the discomfort of this new reality. So all of this leaves me with one final, lingering question. We've become obsessed, really, with AI's ability to articulate, to write for us. But what happens when we start to rely on it for the step that comes before that? What happens when we use it not just as a shortcut for communication, but as a shortcut for thought itself?